Hey everyone, I'm back. All right, take 2 of the All Aboard live sew. I've fixed my mistake and moving forward, if you are here, you know, and if you weren't, brand new video. So I've got everything prepped for the All Aboard. It does have modifications, and this is the modified regular sized version. There is also a large version in the new pattern. And if you purchased the pattern a while ago and it was only the original with the pocket that was inset with the placard around it, if you send me a message, I'll validate your purchase and I will send you the printout of the modifications. It'll be a PDF and it'll have all of the numbers on it. Will not include pattern pieces, will not include instructions. Refer back to this video. So from there, we're going to get started. Hopefully everybody joins again. I apologize. So take 2, here we go. So all right. So this is the bottom piece. As I was saying, I do tend to write on all of my pieces, especially if I'm doing a live. If I know which ones they are when I'm just sewing in my sewing room, great. But a lot of times I'm prepping 2, 3, 4 of these at a time. And so I've got an L on there for lining, the back bottom, the top, the back pocket. So just so that for ease of, and hopefully I don't mess up again for you guys. Okay, so this is the bottom. You can see I've already put my label on there just to make things a little bit faster. I'm going to take the bottom and the middle piece, right sides together, line that up. I've already put double-sided tape on the one, so I'm not going to have to deal with that. Just like that. And then sew those together. Regular quarter seam allowance on that. You won't see me or hear me give very many measurements on this because you should have them through the pattern, but I do freely say that I use a 1/4 inch seam allowance on most everything that I make. I just don't like the waist. Some people like the extra. I don't like the waist. So flip that up. Push the bottom away from the middle, just like that. I like the ledge from the bottom to be on that side. So push the bottom away from the middle. If you guys can share this out, that would be fabulous. I'm gonna well, hopefully we get people to join. All right, so top stitch this in place. All right, so that is the bottom. Notice the difference is that the back pocket is lower, the top pocket is the higher one. So there is the bottom ready to go. Who do we have with us here now? Am I seeing? Can somebody comment so I can see that you're here? I had a lot of people watching the other one, and so I just want to make sure that people made it back to it if they wanted to. I'm applying double-sided tape to both edges of the pocket. Hi, Rochelle. Can you hear me okay, and are things coming through? Thank you. I was worried. I had to restart the video. Were you in the last video, or are you just joining? This is the olive board. Okay, so double-sided tape on both the top and the bottom. I've already prepped a few of these other ones because of the prior video. Okay. Oh, good. Super flustered. I really don't like it when I mess up like that. And I know we're all completely human, but I really don't like it when I do that. So I need to cut another piece of zipper. Bear with me. Prepped everything else, just didn't prep the other zipper. All right, new zipper. Hopefully everybody comes back from the video. I didn't offend anybody by just stopping. All right, so zipper right side together with your top of your middle piece. Just like that. And then this pocket right side down. Just like that. I'm going to sew across the zipper. All right, so then push the pocket away from the zipper that you just, that sandwich that you just made. Push that away and then push the front down, so then you'll have the pocket and the pieces all going the same way. And top stitch across here. So basically your first side of your pocket is just about done. All right, so that's what it looks like so far. And then you're going to take the top of this pocket. It's being super stubborn. And meet it to the top of the zipper that is right there. So you're meeting the two to the top of the zipper. Everything should be nice and straight. Everything should be aligned. And then turn it over. This is the top of the bag. Hello to whoever just joined. And right sides together, line those up. And then I'm going to sew across here again. If you have any questions as I'm sewing, feel free to ask them. Okay, so I've sewn across the top, and then we're going to take this piece and fold it up, and we're going to top stitch right there. All right, yay! There is the front of the modified design. I'll bring that up. You can see you've got your top, there's your middle, and then your bottom. Got my label already on, and then now we're going to construct the back of it. So for the back of it, we have the back pocket, which I've marked, and then we have the back bottom and the back top. Slip pocket, cool. All right, back bottom. If there's a right side, or if you're using directional and you've got top or bottom, you're gonna put your double-sided tape on the top of the bottom panel. Just like that. And then you're going to put your double-sided tape on the next piece. Actually, just put it on both sides because you're going to need it when it comes to the top zipper as well. Just like that. And then also on the pocket. Feel free to interact and chat with me. That's what I said last night. It's kind of hard to do these videos because people are watching, and I realize the silent watcher thing. I do it all the time. When I'm sewing at night, I typically just have a live on for background noise. I kind of sort of wanted to start doing this in the talk, but in all honesty, there's so many people and trolls that come in and out that my group is just a safe zone. So I tend to stay in the safe zone. All right, zipper facing down, right sides together with the bottom panel. Take your back pocket, which is significantly shorter because this is just a fun back pocket that a lot of people use, to put chapstick in, to put your key in, do things like that. This pattern was actually designed for my niece. My niece was going on a cruise. Aunt Kathy, can you make me a bag? She kind of sent me some suggestions, and this was born. And so it's called the All Aboard because she was going on a cruise. That's the whole reason for it. So we have those two sandwiched together. I'm going to sew across here. All right. And then we're going to fold both away from the zipper. Sometimes it's easier to fold the lining away from here first and finger press it. Kind of gets it out of the way. I always like to make sure that it's kind of finger pressed well. If you're using cotton and you want to press it with an iron, feel free to. I just never do because I do if I'm using cotton because cotton's a little less forgiving when it comes to, especially if you have it interfaced and everything. But when it comes to the waterproof canvases, I don't typically do that. Or the waterproof nylon canvas webbing. There's so many different variables that we can use for our linings anymore, and some really fun ones. Make sure you're all lined up. Just like that. So there's the bottom piece with the first part of the pocket. And now let's add make the pocket by folding the pocket back up to the top to meet the top of the zipper. Just like that. Fold it over and then we're gonna right sides together with the zipper again. Line up the zipper top and the top of that, so right there, and we're going to sew across here again. All right, fold the top away from the zipper, just like this. This is a vinyl, and I don't work with vinyl a lot, and so it folds differently away from the zipper than I'm used to. I know that sounds crazy, but it's just because it's more pliable than my cork typically is. All right. So on this, I just kind of wanted to keep it monotone on the coloring. You can always do this the same as what you have on your front middle, just to give it that contrast. I do it both ways. So, all right. So that is the back. So we have the front and the back. Both of these are now done. And next we're going to move on to lining piece number 1. And the slip pocket. So this pattern calls for a slip pocket on the inside. You can always do a zipper pocket if you want to. Personal choice. I designed it with a slip pocket, quite honestly, just to make it easier. Sometimes I'll put a regular pocket in there, but I haven't had a lot of people request that. It's really that they're perfectly fine with the slip pocket. In this particular one, I'm actually going to put cork as the slip pocket on the inside, just as a good contrast with the front. And so cut my cork. I did cut a lining piece. You could put this in by itself and just sew around it because the edges are forgiving. I just don't want people to run into a problem with the top of this because they're going to use it so much. So I am going to go ahead and put a lining on the back of it. Now on this, I don't typically double side tape, but you could if you're worried about it slipping. All right, so fold the lining away from the pocket or away from the main piece. Really get a nice crisp edge up there. You're going to have even edges at the bottom right there. Now, because it is cork, and like I just said, you know, it's already got the edges. They're perfectly fine. I'm not going to sew across top and bottom with right sides together, which you could certainly do if you wanted that to be a finished bottom. These go into the seam allowances, so you're perfectly fine on the sides. But I figure that because it's cork, it's not going to hurt anything to be at the bottom. So I'm just going to fold it over and top stitch the lining down, just like that. Make sure you have a nice straight edge. All right. So then on the instructions, you will see that on here, what I've done is, like I told you on here, I tell you how big the box corners are. I also put how far down you want your slip pocket from the top, and which is 2.5 inches. So I am putting the slip pocket 2.5 inches down from the top. I like little cheers on that because that's the main page I look at. Instead, once I know how to, you know, do the pattern or once I'm familiar with the pattern, I just want quick references to like where the label placement is, where the pocket placement is, how big the pocket is, simple things like that. So that's what you'll see on it moving forward a good amount of my patterns, because I just like I like to pass on those easy references as much as I like to use them. So measuring down 2.5 inches. Just like that. And now I also know that I'm going to put a center in this. So right here, I need my other chalk line. When I sew, I use a couple of different chalk pens. I like the new one that came out in the Advent. I also like this rolling one when I'm trying to mark something that I know isn't gonna mark that easy with that pencil. So I do that. I've marked down the center. top stitch this in place. So basically edge stitch it, keep it in place. All right, what I do on this is I go over to the center line. I stitch over to the center line. And then I stitch up the pocket, stopping at the very top thread line. So very top thread line. Adjust it if you need to. Turn it around, sew back down the same line. Just like that. Turn it and keep sewing across the bottom. It reinforces that center pocket, and it's also just an easy way to get back down to the bottom. And then sew up the side again, just like that. Wipe away your line, and there's your pocket. So it's got your area there, top pocket. All right, so now we have the front, the back, slip pocket, the other lining piece right here, and then we are going to start assembling. This pattern is actually a pretty fun little simple pattern, but it's great because people are like, it looks complicated, but it really, I feel like I have made it so that it isn't as complicated. So what I've got here is the strap tabs. I've already pre-cut them. I'm doing mine in a cork strap. And then, so I just sew down the sides because I like how it looks. You don't have to. You can use a webbing strap. I've made plenty of these with the nylon webbing. I've made plenty of them with the cotton webbing, whatever you want to do. Fold your tab in half. Cut. Now you have your two pieces right there. For this bag, I am going to use the infinity connectors. So I'm going to take the infinity connector, put the tab through it, just like that. Next one. All right, so those two are ready. Let's just go ahead and get the strap built now. So this is the strapping. In the pattern, it calls for a certain length and then cut off the tabs. I typically just cut the tabs from the strapping that I have, and then I make my straps. I typically start with about a 58, 59 inch length, accounting for the fold over amount, and that seems to give a really good size. So I'm just sewing down the sides of these straps now. Pull it out, sew down the other side. that gets noisy after a minute or so. All right. Cut off your threads. You could burn your threads if you wanted to. On these, it's really not necessary. All right, now take your slider, feed it from the bottom to the top, up to the top, over the middle, and back down, and then wrong sides together. I do fold over a small amount so that you can sew across. Fold this back this way. And then I like to make sure that I like to sew between my sew lines that I've just put down the side. It's just kind of what I gauge to do. You can also use a rivet here if you want instead. Personal preference. But just like that. All right, now we're going to set this aside because that goes on at the end. Time to put this thing together. Are you enjoying so far? You're so quiet. All right, so when I'm assembling, I always put the blank lining on the front panel and the pocket lining on the back panel. So we'll start with the front lining. We've got to make our zipper, and then we will we won't forget to put our other zippers on. That's maybe been done a time or two. All right, so installing your zipper. You have to install the top one because I'm putting a zipper tab on this one. So you're going to find the side that is the tallest. That's the first thing you do when you're putting on a zipper. You will then put the head down onto the side that's the tallest, which on this one is that side. Hold it there, merge into traffic, just like this. You're merging that zipper into traffic. And then you're pulling back on the other side just to make everything even. You're just getting a nice even line right there. I just use my thumb and kind of push it back. Tap down, just like that. If you don't like how it looks, it doesn't feel right, you can feel them click together. Just back them off and do it again, and then just lightly push down. And then I can see that I've got the one side just a little bit too tall. So then I back it down a little bit more and I pull it on, just like that. That's how easy it is to install the zipper. And then I do a lot of zipper installs a lot of zipper tutorials when I'm at different shows. It's definitely a struggle point for a lot of people. And I get it, but it really can be quite simple to put it on. Once you've done it a gazillion times, I guess. Maybe that's the answer, is doing it so many times. So that's what I say to do. I'm just fixing something here. All right. So we have the zipper here. We've got the tab, right sides together. Some people will put double-sided tape on that. I just hold it in place. I don't give it a very wide seam allowance just because I don't like a very big zipper tab. Quite honestly, I don't like them at all, but it does make these bags a little bit easier. So I just give it the smallest seam allowance that I can, which is about 1/8. And then fold your tab away from the zipper, just like that, and then fold it to the back. So you have a nice small tab right there. Now you're going to sew across, top stitch across, making sure that everything stays nice and even. Trim both sides. You can, again, take a lighter right there if you want to. Cut off your tab on the back. Just like that. So now that zipper is ready. All right, with your work in front of you, you can choose to put your zipper pulls on now or put your pulls on later. It's completely up to you. I tend to do it as I'm getting ready to sew the sides together. So for right now, you're going to take off the paper on the double-sided tape. And then I take my handy dandy ruler and I measure in the distance from the outside edge. If that's a question for you, you can certainly send me a message if you've purchased the pattern. Line up the tops. And I'm going to show you the same technique that I used last night on the Cellmate. This is a new technique, new not to me, but new according to what I show in the patterns. And so I'm just trying to get everybody, that wants to use this technique, they use it instead of the prior one, which I just don't find as effective personally anymore. So I make marks on the edge, right where the edge of the fabric and the zipper, so you've got a little bit extra over there. I then set this right here and I measure in 5/8 of an inch. So 5/8 of an inch right there, and I draw a line. 5/8 of an inch from the edge. And put a small piece of tape centered over each of those lines, just like that. Oops. So you've got, it looks just like that. Here is your line, and there is the edge right there. So now we're going to separate your zipper, take off, expose the double-sided tape there, fold your zipper back on itself, just like this. Fold it back on itself until you get to the line that you drew. And a lot of times I'll just put my finger right where that line is so I've got a good mark. And then I will fold it right back on itself, just like that. And then once I have that adhered to the zipper tape, I then let it go and let that zipper go at a natural 90 degrees. It's such an easy way to install these zippers. Put a piece over it that goes all the way to the edge, and that's just to hold it in place. Like that, yay. Okay, so that side is done. This one is ready for the next part. Double-sided tape on the top of your pocket, or not your pocket, sorry, your lining. And then right sides together, right over the top of the zipper. Okay. I'm going to sew across the zipper just like you normally would on that top of that zipper to get that to go in place. You'll want to move that zipper pull out of the way if it's going to bother you as you sew. So just like that, I've sewn across it. And then I'm going to cut off that extra zipper on that side. Fold the lining away from the zipper, just like this. And the lining, or the front, away from the zipper as well. So now, line everything up nice and tidy, just like this. And top stitch across. Make sure you line up the edges and the sides. If you've got a little bit more on the front than you've got in the lining, perfectly acceptable. Chances are you're going to have to trim that front down a little bit. So you've got your zipper in, you've got your extra over here, and now we're going to put that on the back piece. So you want to put your double-sided tape on the top of the lining, make sure that your pocket is opening to the top. So double-sided tape, pocket open, bottom of the bag. And here you're going to install your strap tabs according to the pattern. I like mine to go down just a little bit into the lining, so I always leave myself about 1/4 of an inch and 1/8 of an inch to 1/4 of an inch of area that is that the tab is going into. So I put the tab past the top lining, 1/4 to 1/8 of an inch, 1/8 of an inch to 1/4 of an inch, and then I like to secure this piece and these pieces in place with another piece of tape. Just like that. And then take your front piece and lay it right sides together on that back piece. And you're going to want to line up your edges and your top, just like this. Take the time to make sure that everything is well aligned. Straight across, just like that. And now you're going to do the same thing that you did on the other side with your zipper. Fold it back to the line that you made right here. Fold it back onto itself and then naturally let it go to the 90. I like to make sure that they are virtually equal. Another small piece of tape. Perfect. And now take your lining piece, right sides together, again lining up the sides. That's when I turn it around towards me and just make sure that everything is, once again, nice and even. This is why I use so much double-sided tape, because I don't like it when my linings move. It's just not my favorite thing. So I do it just like that. Everything is aligned nice and neat. And now we're going to sew across the top of that. All right, so we're going to sew across this. Okay. Feel like this is, okay, we're going to move you around. All right, this is my other machine. Hopefully you can see it. Okay, I'm bringing you over on this one, that way you can see how I sew across the top. So start sewing, of course, back and forth. Now what I do is I go back and forth over those straps because I don't want there to ever be a strap failure. I keep pushing everything in on the lining, keeping everything well aligned, just like that. If you need to move the zipper pull away, it's perfectly fine. And then slowly up and over the second tab. Again, I go back and forth and then out to the edge. And then we're good on that. But what that's done is it's just reinforced over the top of the strap tabs so that there's no failure on that. And then I'm going to cut this off and we will be good to go. That's just how quick that was on that machine. So let's see, right there. Okay, so now let's cut this off. And then again, push the lining away from the zipper. And then back away. You have to close up that zipper now because you want to get a good clean line. All right, so just like this, top stitch. Make sure your tabs are straight so that when the bag is finished, they're nice and straight to the top. Just like that. Up and over. All right. We're in the home stretch. Okay, so now we're going to install the zippers. You want your zippers, your other two zippers to go from the right to the left. So as it's facing you right to the left, you're going to pull this open up your zipper. The left side was taller this time. Put your zipper pull on, merge into traffic, just like that. even out the, even them out with your thumb, push it down, pull it on, just like that. Make sure you like how it looks. And we're good on that one. So that one's installed. Now do the same thing for the back one. Again, left side was taller, which is always the side that I like to be taller because I just can fish them on a little bit easier. So put your pull on, wiggle it up until you get them even, pull it down, just like that. All right, now we're gonna go right sides together, just like this. Start by aligning. Now, this pattern calls for boxed bottoms. So you've got both the front and the back and then the lining. The lining has a little bit bigger boxed bottom to make it a nicer fit. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to cut those boxes before we actually start putting all of the sides together. Get your pocket out of the way for the bottom. And then grab either grab a rotary cutter or a pen blade. If you're not familiar with the pen blades, they're a really cool tool that I carry. This is the box it tool. The box it tool has all the lines for the different sizes of boxes. The front on this one is in the pattern, what you're going to do on that. And then, careful not to cut past your box too much or at all, because you're going to regret that with the, if you get an overcut. So be careful not to do that. Number one. All right, so that is the front and the back. And now do the lining. You can do the lining at the same time. I don't typically like to do the front and the back at the same time, just because you've got your thicknesses of your, like I said, I use cork a lot, so I don't typically like to cut those at the same time, but the lining I do. All right. Normally I would take this over to my workstation, but I wanted you guys to see it. So that. All right, so now it's time to align these. Front to back, you'll want to align your bottom pieces where the fold is right before the zipper on the back. So then that way you've got a nice even piece. There, pull it up, align the top ones as well. I don't know if you can see what I'm doing here. right sides together on your lining as well, like that. So now you have the sides aligned, and now do the same thing to the other side, making sure that the bottom panels are aligned equally. One is going to be on this pocket, one is going to be on the front facing that we did. So the middle piece and the bottom piece is what I mean. All right, and up to the top. And then keep going and putting those on the lining. There we go. Couple on the bottom edge, not a ton needed there. Bottom edge. Okay, so now it's all put together fronts to backs. I like to make sure that my pockets or the bottom panels stay aligned. So I actually will go in just like this, and I will do a quick stay seam over the top of that area. And that's just so that I can make sure that it stays in place. You can go ahead and just sew right down to the bottom, and that way you're done on that area. But it keeps that area together where you've got your front and your back panels matching up on the sides. So same thing on this one. While you're here, just turn it over or turn it around and sew down across on the main panels, not on the lining panels. If you don't tack these in place to begin with, then you can just start at one at the top and work your way around. We are going to turn this bag through the bottom though, so you want to make sure that you leave your gap there. So, okay, so now I have those tacked in place. The bottom is sewn, and I'm going to start on the lining bottom about inch and a half or so. Doesn't have to be a lot. You want to make it ample enough that when you are making your box bottoms that you're not in the way of those. So just like this. I figure if I leave more room in the center, then that's all the more room I have to turn this bag out, which I find more important. So now you're going to go straight across the bottom, pull a little bit, turn it, and then up the side. Just like this. Right, when you get to the top where the top is here, the top of the bag, make sure that everything is aligned. Get a little bit closer. I need my jumping sew. There it is. Underneath. Likes to fall off the back of my machine. All right, jump and sew is what this is. The piece I designed to help your machine over the thicker areas. It gives it enough room for your needle to be able to go down, which is what I find important. like I've shown before, you kind of lightly pull the back of your bag as you are letting your machine step over the jump and sew, and then adjust, and then keep going just like this. If you lightly pull it as you're going, then you're gonna, it just helps the machine, I guess. I mean, it's just how I use it. Okay, so right there, these connectors are a little bit big, so if you need to push them out of the way, push them out of the way, and then keep going. Just like this. Meet up your stitches right there. You can reinforce them. You could go around them again if you wanted to. Really not a reason to. Just like that. Cut your strings. All right. You're going to have to flip this over to be able to sew on the other side, because the way that I'm showing this to you, you're not sewing all the way around it because of the way that I've reinforced those edges. Optional, but I feel important. So keep going. And then turn. So make sure that these are aligned again. You can feel them right there. You machine to the stopping point, put your jump and sew in there, or your other seam jumper, or whatever you're using on that. If you're not using anything, then that's okay too, if your machine likes to go over it. I just like a nice into the stitches that you've already done. Back stitching. All right, so you've got a nice opening here to be able to turn the bag. Can you see that okay? Nice area right there. And then what I'm going to do now is I'm going to reach in, I'm going to slide open the zipper pull so that I can get all the way through to the top of the bag. And then I'm going to put the box bottoms together. So put these edges, when you've got them like this, when you turn it on its side so your hand is right here, you're going to put those seams together and you're going to nestle them side by side, one seam going one way and the other seam going the other way. So just like that. I tend to like it to go, you got a pocket on both sides, so it's just really what feels better in the fit of this. I feel like it just feels nicer if it's going towards the back. So you want one going one way, one going the other way, and just determine on your bag which way feels the most natural, I guess is the easiest way to put that. Same thing on the other side. I do recommend, however, that you do these the same way on both sides. So if your bottom is going one way, make sure that's going the same way on the other side as well. Same thing on the lining. Lining's not as critical, and there's not a lot of, there's just not a lot of thickness there. So you do want to make sure that they're going the same way, just because. But on the flip side of that, it's just not as thick in those areas. Okay, so then with those sides lined up like that, you're going to sew across with that same quarter seam allowance. So all the way across like this. Same thing on the other side. It's always easier to sew the lining than it is to sew the other. And honestly, typically, I sew the lining second because I do the hardest part first, but the lining was closest to me, so it's all about playing games with yourself to make it seem simpler. All right, so just like this. Ooh, bobbin is getting close. All right. Keep everything but the box area out of your way. Super important. You could ask me how I know that, and I would have to tell you the truth. I have screwed it up before. Ideally, your pocket will not necessarily be in this box bottom. If it is, it's a very minute amount, and it won't hurt anything. So, just like that. Squish down that side. Just like that. All right, we are ready to turn this thing. First, you're gonna do as you do in my other patterns. You're going to cut away from the top zipper. You're gonna kind of scoop it out to get it close to the line, just like that. I said just like that a lot. I need to change that. Okay, so scoop away from your zipper. You've got your boxes already. That's box one, that's box bottom, that's the main panel box. And now reach in and start turning that bag. This isn't a super structured bag, and if you're not, cork is a little bit harder to turn, vinyl a little easier. If you had a thin leather, that would be easy. Yeah, it just kind of depends on what you've used as your medium, but the bag turns pretty easy. Just like that. Push out your bottoms. So use your fingers, push those out. Same thing at the top. Use your finger, push out as far as you can up there because you want that to give you a nice look. Same thing at the top right there. Ooh, that one's good. Woot! Finger press. Bring your zipper over. Reinstalled all my zippers, yay. And my favorite tools. Take it to the bottom, make sure you've got those pressed out properly, and then run your chopstick up the edges. I can't tell you how much that helps give that it just really pushes it out there. So, really helpful. And then you're going to, if you need to, use your pliers and squish the side right there. Squish by the pockets if you need to. Sometimes you need to squish this in place and just give it a nice finish. Same thing on this one. This one. And that one. And then I also do that to the top. All right. So now you can put your lining inside to make sure that you have a nice fit. If there's anything wrong, you know, you can adjust it at that point. But honestly, you kind of know when you're turning it if there's an issue. And so just about, yep, perfect. It'll look good. Ooh, looking good. So total sew time on this isn't too bad, considering I started and restarted. And all right, so fold in your bottoms like this, match up the bottoms. Can you pre-do this? Yes, you can pre-fold these so that they're perfect if you wanted to. Finger press them or iron them if you want to in place. When I'm doing a bottom like this, I don't typically do that, but you certainly could. I find that they go together really nicely this way, so it's all good. You're going to give yourself you're going to turn it in about 1/4 of an inch, just like everything else, just to keep everything nice and straight. Make sure you have a nice straight line right there. And you know where you're starting. Just like that. So across to close up your opening. If you don't give yourself enough room on those corners and you make the bottom opening too big, it makes it a little bit harder to sew that across and close it. So that's why I say give it about 1.5 inches or so. So push your lining into the bag. A little bit. All right. The front of the bag is done right here. And now we will finish putting on the strap. So these straps don't have the snap hooks. I've got the connectors on here. What I do is I go from the back through the top of the connector, then through the top of the slider, through the other side of the slider, just like that. Pull up your strap. So you've got that right there. And then again, with it facing me, I typically make sure that the strap is all laying the right way. You're going to go from the front to the back now, through the other connector, fold over, so you get a nice finished edge. That. Depending on how you want to go through your sewing machine, you can go through the other, from one side or the other. I try to make it have enough room up here so that I can go straight on like this. Whatever works for you. You're just going to sew across. Make sure you secure it in place. Make sure everything is nice and even. All right. Moment of truth. Moment of truth. I do typically seal my threads on this one. All right. How cute is that? That, my friends, is a modified olive board. I had to think about that for a second. So modified olive board looks just like that. You've got your zipper all the way across instead of the placard. It's got 3 pockets, and then on the inside it's got the On this one, I did the cork slip pocket. So makes just for a nice decor item on there. If you're going to use the waterproof lining, it does allow for that to look pretty nice. Take off your protective tape. I added protective tape on my label just to make sure that it didn't get scratched up. That's all. Oh my gosh, we did it. Yay! Let's see here. There we go. All right. Get that ready. All right, so this is the All Aboard modified. Back it up a little bit. So you've got your top, your center zip pocket, you've got your bottom label right there. Flip it around. You've got your back pocket down low, and then you've got your top. Again, you can make this the same as the middle. It's just really personal preference. It's much like any of the other patterns that you want to do. You can modify the colors in that as you need it. So, yay! I think it's beautiful. Hope you like it. I hope that if you watch this on the watch the live after it's done, let me know what you think. If there's any tips or tricks you think that I can do. I hope that I helped on the top zipper again. I do that on a lot of them now. So let me know if you have any comments, questions, need anything else. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you have a great night.